My name is Mark Chalmers, and I'm President and CEO of Energy Fuels. Energy Fuels is a unique company in the fact that we are building a critical mineral hub, and we're basically doing that around our core business of uranium mining and processing. And we have bolted on the rare earths and the heavy mineral sands in what is evolving to be a very exciting position globally.
Mark, good to see you again. I want to talk to you about Madagascar predominantly, but for folks listening, I'll also kind of get into the uranium side of things and how you're reading the market at the moment. But first of all, the kind of, I guess, big news is the Madagascar government lifting suspension on the Toliara project. How did that come about? Were you involved with that, or is it just it's something that had been a long time in the making?
Well, it's huge news for Energy Fuels. Huge news. We purchased Base Resources and closed in October. So literally a little over 2 months from now, and the suspension has been lifted. The suspension had been in place for 5 years. And we also have an MOU detailing the commercial terms as well. So big movement with Toliara. And Base has been working really hard on that for about 5 years. But I believe that there's a significant element in the fact that through this combination with Base, it's now a U.S. Owned company with larger capacity. And I think that resonates with the government of Madagascar.
Right. Okay. So obviously Base Resources, an Australian company, you bought those guys. And Toliara is going to be the flagship project. They do have some sort of residual assets in Kenya, I believe. What happens with those?
Well, the Qualia mine is actually mining itself out at the end of this month. And then there's a kind of accelerated reclamation phase over the next 6 months in 2025. There'll be some ongoing work after that, but most will be completed by the middle of 2025. So with the lifting the suspension and us being able to go back on the ground in Madagascar, Toliara, we can dispatch a lot of the Base people on the Toliara project. And we've also dispatched them on the Donald joint venture in Victoria, Australia, and also in Bahia. So we're putting all these people to work on new projects.
Okay, well let's remind folks, perhaps not heard the story before, why this is such a big deal. Because you've been after Monazite projects, and after the right scale of Monazite project for some time. Is this it, or do you need to go and find some more?
Well, this is a big part of it. It's huge. This is massive. And the market doesn't realize how big a deal this is. I mean, it is known to be like a world-class, low-cost, world-scale, heavy mineral sand project with millions of tons of monazite. Now, there's still a lot of work to be done. And so this fits perfectly into our wheelhouse. This is a great project. I mean, this is a project that companies like BHP and Rio Tinto would be proud of. And the beauty of it is world-class as heavy mineral sands, and it is world-class for rare earths. So you get 2 in 1 here. You get 2 in 1. And so we couldn't be more excited about this, Matt. It's exactly what we were looking for in our strategy. We will have other sources of monazite to complement it. But it is a big part of our story right now when it comes to the rare earths and the heavy mineral sands.
Okay, so the name of the game is obviously fill that big white mesa plant of yours, because that's the money machine right there. If I look at where this project is, where Toliara is now, you talked about the other projects kind of winding down. Is there kind of some sort of waiting period here? Where are you with Toliara? When could that possibly feasibly get into production?
We're going in. Excuse me. We're going into the FID process to make a final investment decision. We believe that's about 14 months. So we're starting that right now. We have the suspension lifted. We have this MOU with the terms. We still have a couple agreements to do with the Madagascar government. They'll take this MOU and roll it into some other agreements, including what they call the LGIM, which is their large-scale mining law in the country. but we're going to go starting the feasibility work, final investment decision work right now. So it could be in construction, as soon as 2000, early 2026, and it'll take a year or two to get in to be constructed. Expecting it to go into production about 2028. So it's still going to take some time, but again, this is world scale, and you talk to anybody that knows this project, anyone who knows this project, and they'll be as excited about it as I am. And what I think is a real opportunity right now is we've really been materially de-risked that project. It's still got work to do, but I don't think the market's really seen it. And that may be a forward-looking statement or a opinion from the CEO, but I don't think the market's seen it, how significant this project is to our entire strategy.
Right. Okay. So you got it. The Madagascar government is on board, and you're going to work out an MOU, and then more importantly on the FID, how this thing gets built out. In I say 2028 is not so long away, actually, in the context of things.
Yeah.
Can we
But
talk
we got
uranium?
the MOU done. The MOU's done.
It's done. Okay, right. So can we talk uranium though? Because I think you got so many kind of revenue streams here. We just want to be really clear that this is still a uranium company. It's number one uranium company in the US. We're focused on uranium. This rare earths and heavy sands is a revenue opportunity which you can put through White Mesa Mill, but you're still a uranium company. So I'll start with what's happening on the ground. I know you've been processing ore. Tell us about what's happening on the ground operationally.
Yeah, well, we've got the Pinyon Plain mine, the La Salle mine, Pandora mines are mining ore right now. We're getting ready to restart the Whirlwind probably in the spring of 25. We're doing additional drilling at Nichols Ranch, which is our ISR project, and we're advancing permits on the Bullfrog project, and we're going back into the feasibility or the EIS process with our large project Roca Honda in New Mexico. So we have got all on steroids on the uranium side of our business. The rare earth business is off on the side, not impacting our ability to ramp up the uranium business in the U.S.
Has it delayed you at all on the uranium side?
Well, I mean, it takes up some of the management time, but we have a separate group in the company that handles these uranium mines, and so yeah, I mean, we've got I don't know what the total numbers are. I think we got 100 people or so at the mill, and we've got probably about 75, 80 miners working right now. We've got ore going into the mill now. It's processing uranium. We've got drums coming out the back end. So yeah, it's pedal to the metal.
Right. And in terms of the balance sheet, because obviously there's a lot more on the books now in terms of what you got to get over the line with Madagascar, etc. How is the balance sheet looking?
Well, we have last reporting period 180 million of working capital, zero debt, and so we still have this very strong balance sheet. Now we're just starting to ramp up our revenue streams on uranium, and we've sold 450,000 pounds of uranium this year already at an average price of about $84, which is probably better than most. And looking to 2025, we only have about 300,000 pounds contracted for 2025. And that continues to ramp up the long-term contract. So we still can kind of pretty open market for the next, particularly next year. We can sell on the spot, but as you know, the spots come off quite a bit, about 77.50 right now. So yeah, we're just getting all these things going, and we're also continuing to receive additional alternate feed, which is a very low cost source of uranium, and we're also looking at some opportunistic uranium purchases in the region too. So the mill has about 1 million pounds of uranium in front of it right now.
I mean, talk to me about like it's a slight segue. Apologies, I will get back to it in a second. But I'm looking as some of the stories coming out in this space, right? I think people are a little bit disappointed that spot sitting in the 70s, right? And are unsure about how to read the market, what the drivers are, what these catalyst moments are. And I think most stock has been hit hard as the prices come off and not recovered. Well, actually, I say that you guys haven't. You've shut up since September. You're kind of bucking the trend a bit here. Um, what's going on out there? Is there anything to read, or is it just it is what it is, and when it goes, it'll go. I mean, can you read, or you
Yeah, I
just
mean,
get on with it?
I think that at these current prices for projects that have been up and running or restarting, that the capital has been either completely paid off, and so you don't have any big debt load. I think that there's a number of projects going to do pretty well in the high 70s. I think it's harder for the new projects that need a full capital load. I think is this puts them in a pinch point here. So I think you still got to look at, and I think where the market has to go is we need to look at the future uranium price as a fully loaded price. It's a price to find those pounds, to permit those pounds, to build the project, and to operate that project to recover a pound. And right now, people can live off of projects that have already been paid for, and that's a lower cost environment. So I think the price has to go up, and I think it's a struggle for new projects, in the low 70s now or the high 70s. But I also think now too you're seeing the term price cross where above the spot price. Okay, so you can get long-term contracts at a premium to spot. So and that's typically what happens when the spot stays put for a while, or moves quickly. So I mean, there's still opportunities out there. I mean, it's still you look at the whole demand curves looking out in the future, particularly with AI and data centers and just the growth of nuclear as a whole, still looks very positive. But it doesn't mean that it's always going to be up continuously at all times.
Right. I mean, and I see like you added another kind of long-term contract in there with a utility. But people just can't help looking at the spot. Right? How many times you tell they're all looking at spot. Even industry looks at spot and goes, "This just isn't right." But a little bit of me is thinking, well, look, in the backdrop of people who are trying to get into production, are struggling a bit. We saw Paladin's quarterly numbers come out, and it wasn't pretty. Market reacted heavily. We've seen people like Boss come off. We've seen Peninsula delay things yet again. It's harder. It's harder to do it than talk about it. It seems to be my sense of what's going on at the moment. And I wonder if maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing for price discovery, because if I'm a utility going, well, don't worry, these guys are coming on, and then those guys don't come on, maybe this price discovery will come through just sheer panic for the fact that supply is a lot harder than it looks from in the North American market. We struggled in Africa, and all of this stuff being produced by Kazatomprom seems to be heading east.
Yeah, it is. It's a hard business, and I've been in it for a long time, and it's really easy to talk uranium over cocktails, but to actually put it in the drum at specification, in a cost effective way, is really difficult. So no, I think some of the newer producers that are coming online, or new to uranium production, yeah, I think they're getting some surprises, and this is harder now than it's ever been, Matt. In my entire career, there are fewer people that understand this business with the technical skills to really execute a successful project. So I mean, it's even tough for us. I mean, finding people, finding miners, and we have probably the biggest nucleus of expertise out there of any of the companies out there in the uranium business outside of the chemicals. so yeah, we're in a good spot, but it's a difficult spot too for all. people going back into production.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, and let's look at these some of the other aspects here in terms of what people are going to struggle with, which is, first of all, being able to process through a mill. We saw, I think, ISO, your I guess your partner in the Tonium mine, pick up the Anfield mill. That's going to need a bit of work and a whole chunk of money thrown at it at some point down the line. No rush. But no one's answering those questions yet, it seems, apart from you and them and maybe Encore, I think. Um, how does the US take care of itself? Because it's a big user, but it's not a big producer.
Yeah. Well, again, I think that if you go back 10 years, the biggest producer was Cameco in the United States. And they haven't come back online, right? And so that was about 50% of the uranium production over the last 10 years. So if Cameco doesn't come back online in the U.S., there is a further gap to fill when it comes to uranium production. So, I mean, to get up to about 5 million pounds of uranium is a big step for the sector in the United States. To get to 10 is a huge step. I mean, I hear people talking about 15 and 20,000 or 20 million pounds. You know, that's a lot. And that's not going to happen anytime in the foreseeable future because it's harder to mine now than it's ever been. A lot of these mines were torn down or mothballed. They're going to take a lot of time to get back up and running. So, I think that, the first step for the United States is get up to about 5 million pounds. Our consumption is about 45 million pounds. So that's way short.
Way
Man,
short, way
way
short.
short.
The other thing I think people forget about is you sit on quite a few assets, right? So just in terms of like maybe have a little chat about the kind of uranium strategy here. Like you've obviously sold 20M to ISO. You've got projects in Wyoming and Utah, across America, right? You've got a big portfolio. But you got to get focused. So how do you treat that portfolio? Will you be offloading more of that to kind of fund the kind of core business? And how do you view your access to capital using the assets that you've
Yeah.
got?
Well, we're not planning to offload anything right now. We're back in development mode. I said we have the three mines operating now: Whirlwind, Alta Mesa, or Nichols Ranch, excuse me. Um, we get those ramped up, and then the permitting on these other projects. So, but you're right. We have a lot of assets now. Each of these assets, typically they produce, 500,000 pounds per year, or maybe 1 million pounds per year. They're not 4 or 5 million pound per year projects, but I mean, something like Roca Honda or even Sheep Mountain, can be a couple million pounds per year in due course.
Right. Okay. So it's a longer term strategy, but you're not looking to offload. Because what interests me is the discussion around critical minerals and energy security in the US. And I think Trump has shown that he's very pro nuclear, which is great. So cleared up any perhaps misconception there. You've not been one for depending on government funding, but that you can't help but be enamored by the narrative there, the support there, and maybe that might be encouraging other kinds of capital into the space, as you said. You mentioned AI, data centers, etc. How do you position yourself at the front of that kind of queue, as it were, to kind of receive this new money into the space?
We never count on the government to solve our problems. But yeah, there could be a role to play with the government on the up to 10 critical elements that Energy Fuels either is currently producing or will be producing, and particularly at the scale that we'll be producing it. When you add these other projects we've acquired in the last 18 months, the heavy mineral sands projects in Toliara, we have something to sell here. And what I've told the government is that we're not going to show up looking for 50 million or 100 million. When we show up looking for funding, it's going to be a big number, with a B on it potentially. So, but we've been putting the pieces together quickly. And I've told you this before. We do more in 1 year than most people do in 10 years. And we've got these pieces coming together, and we are getting very close to a position where we can say we fixed it, right? Or we fixed a lot of it by securing the molecules, having the ability to do the processing in Utah affordably, and as we scale this thing up. So the reason we haven't asked for government dollars is we didn't want to be slowed down. We didn't want to be slowed down. That money is not for free. It's very prescriptive on how you get various phases of the money. And so when we go to get the big money, we want to do it once and at a big scale to make it worthwhile.
Right. And is that going to be sort of centered around the White Mesa Mill hub? Is that the kind of epicenter of all of your business?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, probably, if you look at like Toliara, we've got to do the final investment decision, update the capital cost. It's probably in that $700 million range. The White Mesa Mill, we don't have it. We're going into a final feasibility there. But we throw around numbers of $400-500 million there. And each of these projects could be different sources of financing and different means for financing. Because, you have the Australian government potentially with the Donald Project. You've got the World Bank with Madagascar. You got the U.S. government. You got IRA dollars. There's various sources, DOE, DOD, and you've got industry out there. You've got the auto companies. Some of the people doing metals, alloys, and magnets. So there's different ways to finance these projects, and they could perhaps all have sort of different angles in how we finance those pieces.
Right. Okay. Well, like Mike, like I say, I jumped on the call really to speak about Madagascar because I think it's awesome. It's moved much quicker than I thought it would, and the scale is obviously definitely there to answer a lot of questions for you. So hopefully people get to understand how that contributes towards that. Well, I guess at the end of the day, your bottom line. Stay in touch. Let's know how things move forward because things seem to be moving at a pace. And if there's anything we need to know, I'll be here.
Yeah, I know. And we're busy. I've never been busier in my entire life, Matt. And we're driving our bus the way we drive it, not the way others drive their bus. We're driving our own bus, and we're proud of how we're driving that bus. And as I said, if you look over the last 6 months, we've been outperforming the uraniums because I think people are appreciating that a diversification strategy has a lot of merit, particularly with the volatility that you see in these critical minerals. And we've seen in lithium, graphite, and even uranium. When the price of uranium comes off, the equities get hit hard. And if the price goes up, they benefit from that. So we're building a critical mineral hub. That's the difference.